Did you hear about the person who saved Toy Story 2 getting laid off?
Wait,
Do you know that story?
is this also the person who was responsible for Lightyear? Because that was a piece of garbage. I
Oh
know
wow.
Pixar. I know Pixar let go of a few very, very long-time team members.
I have no idea if that's related. I just know someone ran some command that deleted all of their like local corporate files for Toy Story 2.
I think it's Toy
And then
Story
this
1.
one person, was it? It was one of them. I don't know. And then this person happened to have a backup
Oh.
at their like home, so they saved the entire project.
You're right. It is 2.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's just amazing that like one of the biggest movies of all time was saved by a singular person, and then that person was like the fact that it was like possible to lay that person off is just kind of amazing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, okay. I'm gonna be unpopular here, but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it does help that they're probably paid in like some amount of their compensation is probably shares.
So she
So they
produced
would have gained.
she produced Lightyear, which was a piece of shit. And if okay, you know what? Let's bring it close to home. Okay, Luke Lafreniere was single-handedly responsible for getting the float plane platform off the ground. Okay? 10 years later...
I wasn't, but all right.
Well, getting it off the ground initially? I mean, I think you actually... Oh, was AJ in from day 0?
Not technically, but like I think it was like day like 8 or something.
Okay, because I thought
very, very
I
fast.
thought we had like you could download the file from the forum.
Yeah.
Before anyone else touched it. Okay, so then sure.
Yeah.
So because remember, time was of the essence. Okay, I'm going to do a short history lesson here just to give you guys context for why I think it's actually appropriate for me to say that Luke single-handedly got float plane off the ground.
Well, it wasn't Vessel then though, or it wasn't float plane then though. It was called Rip Vessel.
It doesn't matter.
And it was terrible.
It doesn't.
Like this isn't an amazing accomplishment.
Luke, I love your team. You love your team. You're doing the right thing, making sure that we are respecting the contributions of your team. But just bear with me for a second here, okay?
Sure.
When Vessel shut down, so that was the early access video platform that people subscribed to for $3 a month that we actually had a fair degree of success with. When they shut down, they gave us something in the neighborhood of, what was it, like a week or 2 of notice before the site was just going to go dark. We got basically no notice whatsoever. That meant that we had days to come up with some kind of strategy and communicate that strategy to our viewers on the Vessel platform to try to somehow migrate them, because Vessel wasn't going to be making life easier for us. That meant that we had to use what we had. And what we had was a kind of okay forum and
that's about it.
The ability to make a video and upload it to Vessel, right? And so Luke, before anyone else came on board, got us to a point where we could point people at the forum and say, okay, go sign up here. We're going to keep you your early access. You're going to be able to just like download the video and you can send payment through our crappy, janky payment system on the forum that's very broken. And let's try to have some kind of continuity here. Now, Luke didn't do everything in the same way that Galen didn't do everything
Morris
on
did a lot of
Toy Story 2.
heavy lifting.
But Luke was instrumental in us getting that audience migrated, and that audience being migrated was a big part of why we were able to put funding into the platform. The platform essentially funded itself, and if we hadn't had the opportunity to migrate that audience over, we may have never made the investment, and Floatplane never would have become what it is today. I think that's actually a fairly reasonable prediction of how things would have gone if we had not managed to move thousands of users off of Vessel onto pre-Floatplane. Rip Vessel was, I think it was just a sub-forum on the forum. Now, let's fast forward 20 years later, and you're not working on Floatplane anymore because float plane is shipped or whatever. You work on, butt boat. And
oh my God, I hope this ends up being true.
Is buttboat.com taken? Because I'd love for this to be a product. Anyway, the point is, you work on fail boat. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
It's a pool floaty. It's a pool floaty, and we call it butt boat.
Butt noodle boat. Okay, so you're working on buttnoodleboat.com. And it sucks. Everyone hates it. It loses a bunch of money. I personally think it's pretty crap. And I basically go, hey, Luke, it's been 20 years since that pivotal moment when you did a great job. I really don't know if you've got what it takes anymore. I think it's time for you to hit the bricks and, and enjoy your silver parachute or golden parachute, whatever your parachute is made of. There's probably going to be some kind of parachute involved. Hopefully we can still be friends. Just because you did something 20 years ago, does that somehow entitle you to be employed there forever? I actually don't think so.
No, and I think in this case, part of their compensation package was probably stocks. So that kind of makes it a lot easier. And I think there's a lot to be said too, because like in your story, and I understand you have to distill it down to this, or else we would sit here for an hour describing the scenario. But sure. in your story, there's nothing that they did between those 2 points. There's Toy Story 2, and then there's Lightyear, and it's just I wouldn't like it to be this is the only thing that they did bad. You know?
Sure.
If they did Toy Story 2 and then they did good work for however many years,
you know what? That's
Lightyear
fair.
kind of sucked.
But here's the challenge. What if they did good work for all those years? Or at worst, mediocre work for all those years, and then Lightyear sucked. Well, now what are my options? Because demoting someone from a producer role, that's tough. What am I supposed to do? Do I publicly humiliate you by demoting you? By putting you back, obviously not to this degree, but do I put you back on, fetching juice box duty? Right? From a producer role? Or is it better at that point to go, okay, I guess you're Peter principled. Maybe it's time for a fresh start somewhere else. Is it actually more humane to tell someone, hey, you actually are not as good as we thought you were. I guess you're going to do a lower tier duty now.
I think this would come down to stuff that we wouldn't be able to have visibility on. And maybe these things happened, I don't know. But I would like to assume at a good company that there would be a conversation about these types of things. And how bad was Lightyear? I never watched it.
Phil in Floatplane chat says, Lightyear wasn't anything special, but I thought it was okay. Sucks seems a little harsh. But here's my rebuttal to that. Pixar is a studio that prides itself on
just only releases bangers,
shooting for the moon. And Lightyear was it's more that the errors in Lightyear were so preventable. And look, I'm not even talking about any of the culture war crap that took place over the same-sex kiss that was in the movie. In fact, I thought it was pretty inconsequential. I'm talking about the fact that it was just stupid. It opens, spoiler alert. And I actually participated in the They're Just Movies podcast episode on Lightyear. So I really watched it with a critical eye, and then I've already recorded a lot of my thoughts. So this will be repetitive to any of you who watched that episode, but there frankly aren't that many of you, which is why the podcast doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, the point is, the movie opens with when Andy went to the theater before the events of Toy Story 1. This is the movie he saw. And then I sat and watched an hour and a half of definitely not the movie that Andy watched. They set the stage completely wrong. Buzz is a little bitch. Emperor Zurg turns out to be himself. And it's like, fucking what? That makes absolutely no sense for that to be what he watched. Like they've got these weird kind of, comedic relief characters that are kind of okay, I guess, but just the actions that the characters take often make no sense whatsoever. Like it's fine for kids. My kids said it was good, but my kids will say the Emoji Movie is good. That doesn't mean that it's up to Pixar's standard. And if all I wanted to do was eat some popcorn or whatever, then, sure, if it's on out of the corner of my eye and I'm not thinking critically about it, then it's fine. But there were major structural issues with the movie and with its role in the entire cinematic universe that, for better or for worse, it is part of, that just were so easy to just not do. Buzz just could have gone on an ass-kicking adventure where he fights Emperor Zurg. That was all you had to do. And instead you chose to just completely f*** up for no apparent reason. So that is the kind of egregious error in judgment that I would look at and I'd go, yeah, I just don't know if your head's in the game. That's my justification.
Yeah, I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes and I was surprised because it shows audience score 84%, tomato meter 74%. But I think it's just immediately comes back to what you were talking about earlier, where like Pixar has to release bangers every time. And you think about the investment period that they have for these movies. Like they'll work on one of these things for such a ridiculously long time. Like I remember hearing just about how they rendered the water. Was this Pixar? Finding Nemo? Was that Pixar? I think it was.
Yeah, Finding Nemo's Pixar.
Yeah, I remember reading articles on just purely how they rendered the water for Finding Nemo, and it was like amazing. Like the work and time investment back then to be able to do something at that level was incredible. And I'm sure if I look up Rotten Tomatoes.
Finding Nemo's like 99% or something stupid like that.
99%. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like this is what you're aiming for. And the gap when you look at performance metrics for things, or really almost any measurement, if you're looking at something, performance metrics for practically anything. If you look at it, the gap between 99 and 99.9 and basically everything before 99 is such a huge difference, because those extreme top performers at the very, very, very top end are going to do so incredibly vastly better than everything that's like 98 and below. So hitting like 80 something is not really acceptable for a studio at that size.
People are talking about a lot of stuff in the chat. I feel like I should address some of these. One, people are saying that it made 224 worldwide on 200 million. That means it lost money. That production budget does not include marketing budget, which in the case of a major hopeful blockbuster like this is going to be tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. It is not by accident that everywhere you turn, you see marketing for, latest Pixar Fest, whatever the case may be. So no, it didn't only make a little bit of money. It lost a ton of money. And that's a lot worse than...
Is that total box office as well? Because the theaters take a very significant portion of that.
No, I think that's their take. Don't quote me on that. I'm actually not 100% sure about the math, but what I know is that if you see production budget 100 million, box office 100 million, that movie lost a ton of money. And there was another one here, like, hey, you can't just fire one person over something like that. And it's like, or maybe you can. Maybe it was their call. Maybe the buck did stop with them. And also they fired a bunch of people. Wasn't just her.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's people talking about how, hey, maybe it didn't make money on the box office, but hey, maybe it made money on toys. Not every one of Pixar's films does really well on toys. I have this conspiracy theory that that's why it took so long to do an Incredibles sequel. because I don't see nearly the same kind of merchandising on Incredibles compared to some of their more cutesy stuff. Something like Cars. Why did they make 3 of those in rapid succession? Because they sell a lot of freaking Cars merchandise. Little boys, little 4-year-old boys love Cars. And honestly, those aren't my favorite movies either. I absolutely hate the Cars universe. I think they're relatively garbage compared to a lot of what Pixar's done. But there's no doubt that they're going to keep pumping out Cars, because boy, does it ever do well in terms of toys. But I'm not convinced that Lightyear, the fact that they went animated live action, I'm not convinced that Lightyear would have really moved the needle for them.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm making people mad. This 23-year-old boy likes Cars. I love Cars. Could be worse, could be Planes. Yeah, ooh, that's true.
Wait, they made something called Planes? Is that real?
Yeah. It's one of those like direct-to-DVD garbage, like Lion King 1.5, like that
okay.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just garbage.